You know, every time December rolls around, something inside me shifts. It's like some little ember buried deep in my chest starts glowing again. And though the world around me is noisier now, faster, brighter, in all the wrong ways, that ember still burns. It flickers with memories of a Christmas I haven't lived in decades, a Christmas that disappeared somewhere between the Sears toy catalog going out of print and my mother leaving this world long before I was ready. I'm an old man now, older than I feel on good days and older than I want to admit on the bad ones. But there's one thing age can't take away. The way Christmas felt in the 1960s, those memories, those I can still unwrap like an old ornament kept safe in a tin box tucked in the back of a closet. The strangest thing about getting older is realizing that the world didn't just move on. It sped off, running so fast that sometimes you don't even recognize the season you used to know. Christmas lights are brighter now, sure. Decorations are bigger. Music is on demand. Trees go up earlier. But somehow, the magic, at least the kind that used to lift the whole neighborhood into one shared moment, feels thinner, like a copy of a copy, like we traded the soul of Christmas for convenience without ever stopping to ask if the bargain was worth it. Back in the 60s, Christmas didn't arrive all at once. It tiptoed in, almost shy at first. The season began slowly, quietly. It started with the first cold wind blowing in from Canada, rattling the windows of our little house. Then came the storefronts in town, Woolworths and the five and dime putting out their first strings of lights and stacks of boxed cards, a few early wreaths on neighbors' doors. You felt the season before you saw it. It was a rhythm, not a rush. And at the center of all of it, my mother. I wish you could have known her. She wasn't one of those glamorous TV moms you'd see in the holiday specials. She wasn't perfect. She wasn't polished. She didn't bake 6 types of Christmas cookies or knit matching sweaters. Life in the early 60s didn't give parents the luxury of overachievement. They worked. They stretched every dollar. They did what they could. But what she did have, what she had in abundance, was heart. And at Christmas, she had this way of turning our small, drafts-weary house into a place where magic felt not only possible, but inevitable. She's been gone for years now, decades, but sometimes I step into a room lit only by Christmas lights, and for one suspended moment, she's right there, as real as ever, not in body, but in the feeling. It's funny what memory chooses to keep, not the presents, not the stuff, but the moments. I remember the sound of her unwrapping tissue paper from a box of ornaments, the quiet sigh she'd let out when she plugged in the lights and they all worked on the first try, because that was a miracle. The way her handwriting curled across the Christmas card she sent to neighbors, cousins, her old school friends back in Ohio. That handwriting, Lord, I'd give anything just to see it fresh in front of me again, and maybe that's why Christmas feels different now. Because nobody writes like that anymore. Not in ink, not on paper, meant to be held, kept, read twice. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You want to know what Christmas really felt like in the 1960s? Picture this. It's late November. The wind outside bites, but the house is warm. Dad's got the evening paper folded under his arm. My little sister is glued to the TV, waiting for Rudolph or Frosty or some special that only came once a year, not whenever you tapped a screen. And Mom is at the kitchen table with a cup of instant coffee, staring down a stack of boxed holiday cards she bought from Woolworth that afternoon. If you've never seen a 1960s Christmas card box, let me tell you, it was a thing of beauty. Sturdy cardboard with a cellophane window, crinkly and clear, showing off the top card of the set. Inside were 20 or 30 cards, each printed on thick, textured stock. None of this flimsy digital stuff. And the designs, they were art. Not just illustrations, not just decoration. Real, honest, mid-century design. Some had that clean, atomic age look, tall, stylized Christmas trees shaped like elegant green triangles, sprinkled with starbursts and geometric ornaments that looked like constellations. Others were cozy Americana scenes, a snow-covered town square, a horse-drawn sleigh, children skating on a frozen pond while a church steeple glowed in the distance. And if you were lucky, your box had the special Hallmark foil cards, the expensive ones, where the gold lettering actually shimmered when you moved the card in the light. Those were Mom's favorites, not because they were fancy, but because she said, if you're going to send someone a wish, make it worth keeping. She wrote every card by hand, no shortcuts, no quick signatures. She'd sit for an hour, pen in hand, writing something she hoped would make someone smile. And that wasn't just my family, that was America. Every house on our street had a card night. Every kitchen table turned into a workshop of envelopes, stamps, address books, and cups of hot cocoa. Kids helped lick stamps until their tongues tasted like glue. Neighbors compared who'd bought which design. Everyone waited for the mailman, wondering who had sent what this year. Today, people say digital messages are easier. Sure they are, but easier isn't always better. You can't hold a text message. You can't prop it on your mantle. You can't keep it for 40 years in a drawer with ribbons and ticket stubs and memories. In the 1960s, Christmas wasn't just a holiday. It was a shared culture, a rhythm the entire country followed together. Even store windows helped tell the story. Take Macy's in Manhattan. Every December, the windows became their own world of moving puppets, glowing snow, tiny villages lit by bulbs the size of jelly beans. As kids, we'd stand with our noses pressed against the cold glass until our breath fogged it up. Nobody was filming themselves for social media. Nobody was curating content. We were just there, in the moment, breathing the same cold air, sharing the same magic. And part of that magic, maybe the biggest part, was anticipation. Anticipation is a lost art, a forgotten feeling. Today, everything arrives fast. Same-day delivery, instant streaming, in-app purchases. Kids don't circle toys in catalogs anymore because toy catalogs barely exist. They don't wait all year for one special gift because gifts show up all year long, delivered in brown boxes with printed labels and no soul. But back then, waiting was everything. We waited all month for the Christmas TV specials. They came once a year. Once. If you missed it, you waited another 12 months. We waited for the first snowfall to stick to the ground. We waited for the tree lighting in the town square where everyone showed up whether they liked each other or not, because that was just what you did. And we waited for the tree. Our family never put up the tree in November, never. Mom said that rushing Christmas was like rushing love. You spoil the good of it. So the tree went up mid-December, always on a Friday night when Dad got home early and could help drag the box down from the attic. The living room filled with that unmistakable scent of pine and cold attic air, and Mom would put on Bing Crosby because nobody set the mood like Bing. She'd unwrap each ornament like it was fragile history. Some of them were. glass bulbs with hand-painted designs, an angel made of straw, a felt Santa my sister made in kindergarten, pine cones dipped in glitter and shellac. Nothing matched. Nothing was curated. But somehow, everything worked. And when she stepped back, hands on her hips, surveying the tree lit only by those wide C7 bulbs that glowed like little lanterns, the whole room changed. It wasn't the decorations. It wasn't the lights. It wasn't the pine smell. It was her. She was the heart of that house, the anchor of our traditions, the keeper of the magic. And now she's gone. And that's part of why Christmas feels different. But memory has its own kind of magic. And sometimes that's enough to light a room. You know what else I remember? Community. Back then, everyone celebrated Christmas together, even if they didn't celebrate it the same way. It wasn't about perfection or performance. It wasn't about posting pictures of your tree to prove something. It was about people showing up, people sharing space, people choosing to care about each other even when life got hard. There was this family on our street, the McKay family. They had more kids than chairs in their house, but they had the warmest lights in the entire neighborhood. Every year, Mr. McKay strung lights across a maple tree so tall it towered over the whole block. Kids would gather under it, drinking cocoa from paper cups while he plugged in the lights, and everyone gasped like it was the Rockefeller Center tree itself. Nobody cared if the lights weren't perfectly aligned. Nobody cared if some bulbs flickered or glowed dimly. It was the act of doing it together that mattered. And today, I worry we've lost that. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but quietly. We rush, we scroll, we isolate, we consume more than we participate. And somewhere in all that noise, the magic that once tied us together has been thinned out until it's almost see-through. But here's the thing, it's not gone. We didn't lose the magic of Christmas. We just stopped noticing it, stopped slowing down long enough to feel it, stopped creating the rituals that made it real. And if there's anything I've learned from the last few decades, from losing my mother, losing old friends, watching traditions fade, it's that magic doesn't disappear on its own. People keep it alive, or they don't. Magic is a choice. And Christmas, real Christmas, is built, not bought. I'm going to stop here for now, because what comes next, the part about the little traditions that shaped our whole neighborhood, the rituals my mother taught us, the things we lost and the things we can bring back, that deserves space of its own. And here's the magic we lost, and the magic we can still bring back. You know, as I get deeper into these memories, I realize something. The things that made Christmas magical back in the 1960s weren't big. They weren't flashy. They weren't expensive. They were small, humble, human. That's what made them powerful. And maybe that's why it hurts a little to remember them now, because the world has become so loud and so rushed that the small things barely stand a chance unless we hold on to them deliberately. One of those small magical things was the ritual of going downtown just to feel Christmas in the air. You didn't need to buy anything. Nobody checked prices or worried about aesthetic gift wrapping. You just went because Christmas was a shared experience, one you could walk through. I can still see it clear as day. Downtown Main Street, upstate New York, 1964. The sidewalks were crowded with people bundled in wool coats, cheeks red from the cold. The big department stores, Sears, J.C. Penney, Montgomery Ward, had enormous window displays you could stare at for 10 straight minutes and still find new details. Woolworths smelled like popcorn, waxed floors, and the faint sweetness of holiday candy made in giant metal bins. Every store had bells, wreaths, tinsel, garlands. None of it coordinated, none of it subtle, all of it perfect. And the music. Oh, the music. Not playlists, not earbuds, not background noise you tuned out. Real, live music. Speakers mounted on lampposts, playing Bing Crosby and Nat King Cole. Sometimes a high school brass band bundled in coats playing Hark, the Herald Angels Sing in the biting cold. Sometimes a group of kids standing outside the Five and Dime singing carols for coins. Nobody walked past them without smiling. Nobody hurried. Nobody was too busy. Christmas slowed you down, whether you wanted it to or not. And at the center of it, always, were the Christmas cards. Whole racks and racks of them, dozens of designs. Boxed sets from Hallmark, Gibson, Ambassador. Cards with mid-century illustrations so gorgeous people today collect them as art. I remember Mom turning each box over in her hands, tapping the corners gently as if she could tell the quality just by the sound. She'd hold the boxes up to the store lights, squinting at the gold foil, reading the pre-printed messages softly to herself. Wishing you peace and joy. May the blessings of Christmas fill your home. Warmest greetings of the season. She chose cards the same way some people choose gifts. Carefully, lovingly, thoughtfully. And when we got home, she'd lay them all out on the kitchen table like precious items. She'd warm her hands on a mug of cocoa and begin writing, one at a time, as if each person mattered. Because they did. She wrote to neighbors she saw every day. She wrote to the old couple down the street who always gave us ribbon candy. She wrote to my school teacher. She wrote to her cousin in Ohio, who she rarely spoke to but never forgot. She even wrote to people who hardly wrote back. That was her way of saying, "You're part of my life, whether you know it or not." And that's a kind of love we barely show anymore. Today, we text emojis. We send auto-generated cards with digital signatures. We copy-paste greetings into a group chat. But a handwritten Christmas card, that's a piece of someone's time, a piece of their heart. Ink pressed into paper by someone who thought of you long enough to write your name. And you know something else? People used to display them. Every house had a card display hung on a string, pinned to a doorway, tucked in a wreath. You could walk into a home and see dozens of cards from dozens of people. Christmas didn't just happen inside a house. It connected houses, connected families, connected entire neighborhoods, and that togetherness didn't stop there. You want to hear something very 1960s? Back then, even the post office felt magical. That might sound strange to anyone today, but in the 60s, the post office was part of the Christmas ritual. The building smelled like paper, ink, and cold wool coats. The counters were polished wood, the floors tile that clicked beneath snow-wet shoes. Lines were long, but nobody complained, because everyone was mailing Christmas to someone they loved. You'd see people carrying shopping bags full of gifts wrapped in shiny paper and tied with thick red ribbon. You'd see older women sending tins of cookies to grandchildren across the country. You'd hear conversations like, "Did you see the new cards at Woolworth's this year? I'm late sending mine. I'll never get them to Kansas in time." Even the clerks seemed to soften in December. They joked, they chatted. They handled every package like it contained something precious, because to someone it did. And once you'd finished mailing cards and gifts, there was one more thing to do. Photos. Not selfies, not filters, not 17 attempts to get everyone's hair perfect. Real Christmas photos, Families went to portrait studios with big cameras, hot studio lights, and backdrops painted to look like living rooms or snowy forests. You'd put on your good clothes. Kids fidgeted. Babies cried. The photographer cracked jokes so Dad would smile instead of scowl. Those photos weren't content. They were keepsakes. You waited weeks to get them back. And when they arrived, printed on thick photo paper tucked in little envelopes, you handled them like treasure. Some families sent them as Christmas postcards. Others framed them. Some tucked them into albums where the corners yellowed over time. I still have some of those old photos. Some are bent, some are fading, but they mean more to me than any perfect digital image ever could. Because they were real, because they were us, because Mom was there, and I feel her absence most on Christmas Eve. When I was a kid, Christmas Eve was an event, an adventure, a ritual we followed the same way every year, almost like a sacred dance. We'd go to church. Everyone did, whether they were devout or not. The whole town squeezed into wooden pews polished by decades of coats and gloves. The air smelled like pine wreaths and melting snow. The organist played Silent Night, and when the congregation sang, you could feel the notes vibrate in your chest. After church, we'd visit my grandparents. Their house was small, but somehow it held 30 people each Christmas Eve. The kitchen was a battlefield of casseroles. Kids ran everywhere. Adults exchanged small gifts, always wrapped in the same shiny paper sold at Woolworth's. Someone always brought fruitcake nobody ate, but everyone agreed it looked nice. And then the long drive home, snow crunching under the tires, Dad humming along with the radio, Mom squeezing my hand and saying, "Merry Christmas, sweetheart," like it was the most special phrase in the world. When we got home, we'd hang stockings, real wool stockings, not giant velvet ones stuffed with toys. Stockings meant fruit, nuts, a candy cane, and maybe a small toy. And somehow, that felt like treasure. Mom would tuck us in, kiss our foreheads, turn off the light, and that feeling, lying in bed, knowing Christmas was hours away, hearing the wind outside and the faint hum of the living room lights through the wall, that feeling was magic, pure magic. Nobody can fake that. Nobody can recreate that with apps or content or curated aesthetics. Magic like that comes from people, tradition, time, presence. And maybe that's what's missing today. Not Christmas itself, but what we bring to it. A few nights ago, I sat alone in my living room. The house was quiet, the tree lit with those soft yellow lights that look almost like the old C7 bulbs. And I found myself talking to my mom. Not out loud, well, maybe a little out loud, just telling her how much I miss her, how much I wish she could see my grandchildren, how much I wish she could see what Christmas has become, and how much she could help us bring a little of the old warmth back. And that's when it hit me. The magic isn't gone. It lives in the memories she gave me, and memories don't disappear unless we let them fade. But here's the part I want you to hear, really hear. Christmas magic isn't found in old catalogs or department stores or handwritten cards or tree lots or community parades. Those things help, sure. They set the stage, they light the path. But the magic itself, the magic is in us. It's in the way we choose to slow down, the way we choose to show up for each other, the way we choose to remember and honor the people no longer here, the way we choose to pass traditions down, even when we have to rebuild them from scratch. And maybe, just maybe, this year, you and I can do one small thing. Write one card by hand. Visit one neighbor. Light one candle. Play one old Christmas record. Tell one story to a child about how Christmas used to feel. One small act. One moment of presence. One spark of the old magic. Because sparks become embers. And embers become flames. And flames, well, flames can light a whole house. Before we finish here, let me say something I rarely say out loud. If you're listening to this, if you're here with me, walking through these memories, sharing these moments, thank you. Truly, that means more to me than you know. And if you want more stories like this, more of the old America, the traditions, the memories, the things worth keeping alive, I'd be honored if you stuck around. My little corner of the internet is dedicated to making sure this magic doesn't fade. All right, let's wrap this up. Christmas isn't about recreating the past. It's about remembering what made the past beautiful and carrying that into the future. The world may rush, the world may change, but we don't have to let it steal the things that matter. Not the wonder, not the anticipation, not the handwritten cards, not the quiet moments, not the warmth, not the connection, not the magic. That magic is still here, in you, in me, in the memories of those we love, in the traditions we choose to keep alive. You just have to slow down long enough to feel it. And Mom, if you can hear me, Merry Christmas. I'm still trying to do it the way you taught me.